Okay, welcome back everyone. Today we are going to learn how to factor binomials, which is actually factoring a quadratic, and I'll explain that in this lesson. This is covered in IXL's AA4, factoring quadratics with a leading coefficient of 1. And I'll explain what that means as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Let's get rid of this. Okay, so factoring binomials. We did factoring monomials first, and now we're going to factor binomials. Well, first we need to remind ourselves of what a binomial looks like. It's a two-term times a two-term. Here's a term, here's a term. This is a binomial. Here's a term, here's a term. This is a binomial. So you don't actually factor this. This is already factored, which I'll explain here in a moment. But we're going to factor the quadratic. When you multiply these together, you end up with this, which I'm going to show you here in just a few minutes as a reminder. Okay, so few notes you need to get in your head. First of all, a binomial is a factored quadratic equation. I'm going to go ahead and write these things down. And when you factor a binomial, what you're actually factoring is you're factoring a binomial out of a quadratic. So when someone says factoring binomial, that actually means you're factoring a quadratic. You're factoring the binomial out of the quadratic. Why is it called a quadratic? Well, quad means four. Quad means four, like a quad runner, or quad means four. A square has four sides. Your first term in a quadratic equation is squared, so it ends up being x squared, as you remember, right? X squared, that's squared. This is why this is called a quadratic. In this case, not really an equation, it's an expression, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's go ahead and start here. Let's remind ourselves of how we actually simplify a binomial. And that by simplifying the binomial, this is a binomial. Yeah, let me make that in red. By simplifying the binomial, we're going to create a quadratic. And then that quadratic is what we will factor in order to come back to this. So remember, it's just repeated distributive property. X times x, okay, plus, this is a positive times a positive, x times 3 plus x times 3. Okay, we did those. Now, plus times plus, so plus 2 times x. And then finally, we have positive times a positive, 2 times 3. It's very important that you remember how this is being done, because this is what's going to help us understand how to go back the other way. What's being added and what's being multiplied, that's the key. All right, so let's go ahead and simplify this. X times x. X times x is x squared. Okay. Plus x times 3. Well, how do you write x times 3? You just write 3 times x, because remember, the number goes out in front of the letter. Okay. Plus 2 times x, which is just 2x. 2 times x, 2x. And then finally, and this is a key right here, 2 times 3 plus 2 times 3. Now we can, oh, that's 6. Sorry about that. We know that's 6. Okay, plus 6. All right, now at this point, we go ahead and we combine like terms. Combine your like terms, all right? Nothing to combine with the x squared, but 3x plus 2x, right? 3x plus 2x is 5x. And then, of course, there's nothing to combine the constant 6 with, so it is just 6. There it is simplified, and this is our quadratic equation. Quadratic equation. All right, so this is where I'm going to start to show you how to take this and turn it into this. We're going to factor this and turn it into this, and we'll do that starting in our next video.